facilitate so Sabbath school is not so boring. And I must admit, in many places, it's just downright boring. And so we're going to see how we can combat that. So let's just kind of run through, as our exercise showed yesterday. If we are not on the same page, regardless of how big or small your church is, if we're not on the same page, chances are we're not going to be very effective. The same thing is true as a family, a husband and a wife, or whatever the unity is. You have to be on the same page, so you have to figure that out. We talked about trying to track different age groups, doing well, doing bad. Let's see, I told you I was going to give away a gift. The process for change, without looking at your note. Does anyone know the 3 elements necessary for change to take place, without looking at your notes?
Comes to my mind, think big.
Think big. That wasn't what I was looking for, though. But I like know where you are.
Know where you want to be.
Yes.
And have a plan.
Oh, I gotta give you a gift. Thank you. Oh, thank you. And I'll sign that for you a little later, okay? Yeah, that came straight. He didn't look at his notes. Okay. I must know where I am. I must know where I want to be, and I must have a plan. So we talked about that yesterday. Our example here that we worked through yesterday was just to kind of make us start thinking. I don't like using the phrase outside of the box. If somebody help me, I need a better phrase than that. But just for us to start thinking and trying different things. Let's not be afraid to try something different. Is it worth anyone's time to come to your program? Does anyone remember? I said when people leave, these are the 2 things that people must leave. I want them to leave my Sabbath school class feeling these 2 things. These are 2 easy ones. Oh, that's great. Inspired and encouraged. Not just informed. And sadly, in some churches, people feel berated because it's like the teacher is talking that down to them. It's easy to teach and tell other people what they need to do better and not include yourself in it. Y'all should do this. Y'all should do that. Y'all should do that. Yes?
Well, that one term I feel like we need to add in these terms we were talking about, what you want to come away or what you want to feel in Sabbath school is the word safe.
Safe, yes.
You want to feel safe enough to come to ask a question you honestly don't know an answer to, or feel safe enough that your comment will not be berated, or you won't be shot down. It's someplace to where you feel like you're part of the group and you're valued for being there.
Oh, I love that.
Safe.
And how do you think? And we're going to talk exactly what you're talking about, but let's just go there now. How do you think? What would make a class environment safe? If I was a teacher, what would I need to do to ensure that my class was a safe environment where people wouldn't feel like they couldn't say what they want to say? What would I need to do? Kick out the negative ones. Okay, that's a start, I guess.
Just make sure that you take them seriously, you respect them.
Okay.
You encourage them.
All right.
Ask questions.
Okay.
Make comments.
That's good.
Make them feel like they can do that.
Anyone else? Yes.
I don't want to say don't point the finger at them.
Yeah.
But when someone is wrong, like you said earlier, don't point out that they are wrong. You might include it with third person.
Okay.
A person might think this way, or a person might think that way. Don't say you shouldn't think this way. You should.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Yes.
Creatively include everyone.
Yes. Yes.
And you can always say thank you for your comment, no matter whether it's
Yes.
Yeah.
And I even do that sometimes because so every now and then I'll go someplace and I have crazy people in class, and I can't say, that was really crazy. So I'll thank them. I'll say that was very interesting, and just keep going. Yes.
Remember their ideas later in discussion so you can pull them back into it and they'll know that what they said was relevant to your mind.
Yes.
Sometimes what I'll do is say, that brings me to,
Yeah.
and go off on something else.
Yes.
To have, just to kind of to keep it going, to keep things going.
we have to show value for everyone, right? So along with showing value, I have to make sure that I don't have these doctrinal debates. Some classes, they're known, this class always has a debate. And that's intimidating for some people, right? And so we're going to talk about how to deal with those issues. I remember I was teaching at Berean. Of course, this is another big church example, but I think the point is valid. At this particular day, we had to have had 1,000 people there during the Sabbath school. We do a general lesson study because of our sanctuary. And a visitor raised her hand to read because as a Sabbath school teacher, I don't read myself. I always ask other people to read. I mentioned that earlier because they will feel like they're involved. This lady raised her hand. She was a visitor that day. And we have to have microphones, so people to hear. So the elder comes over with the microphone. And when she starts to read, this is how she started reading. She said, and the elder says, center of a sheet of, the elder said, paper. She could barely read. I was so blessed that a visitor, she knew she could barely read, but she wanted to be a part of this Sabbath school, so she raised her hand to read. And because we don't, I told you yesterday, we don't allow negativity to stay on the floor. That doesn't mean we don't sugarcoat the truth, but we don't allow it to stay on the floor. So, yes, we want to add safe to being inspired and encouraged. No negativity zone. It's not your job to scold people. We're not going to track people by scolding them. We read this quote yesterday from Ellen White. We designed a program. Don't look at your notes. Don't cheat. What does that mean?
What does it cost, survival or success, and clear your pathway?
Oh, that was close.
Clear path forward.
All right, so start all over. What was it again? Tell me.
What's it going to cost?
So I said it's something different. Like, what did I say?
What's the cost?
No.
Okay.
Oh, that's it. Help her out. What was it?
Are you willing to
Are you willing to pay the cost? And what was this?
survival
Or,
success?
and I must give them a. Oh, I think that qualifies you. I think even though everybody helped you, so you can tear out a page and give her a page, and give him a page. You give everybody a page. Great job. Okay, I told you, the Sabbath school superintendent, whoever you find out who that is, I guess they're doing a great job. Okay, sounds like your superintendents are doing a great job. They're staying in the background. I didn't mean that far in the background. Okay. This is a new one. I can't wait to get to my next place and tell them some of these stories. Okay. We'll come back to this a little later. I'll give you a heads up. If we only had $200, that's all our budget has is $200. What could we do to make an impact in our community with $200? Not just giving people, $10 here, there. So we're going to come back and work that out. All right. So let's talk about teaching. And we're not supposed to say teachers anymore. You know that, right? For at least the adult class teachers, there are what? What are they? We're facilitators, right?
I was going to say for teen classes, it's your teacher.
You're a teacher, yeah.
You're instructing. You're bringing brand new concepts to these kids.
Yes. So even though it's a facilitator, you are a teacher, right? But I think they're trying to say it should be a group effort in Sabbath school. And that's really why they're doing it. And if you would call up some of the folks from NAD, they will reinforce that with you as well. But I always like to start here. Here's what I believe. If I am a Sabbath school teacher and I teach, let's say, all year, let's say 52 weeks. So I'm studying my Bible.
You're a teacher?
I'm imagining I'm a teacher. Yeah, I am a teacher.
Not a facilitator.
If I'm a facilitator, and all year I've been studying, praying, teaching, I believe at the end of that year, I should be one of the sweetest people in the church. Because if it is not working for me, I really shouldn't be trying to teach other people. If it doesn't make me loving and kind and patient and tolerant, then what am I trying to teach other people to do, right? And I told you I'm going to tell you a lot of war stories. When we made our change at our church at Berean, we made a lot of change because what we were doing was not working for the church. It was just the way we always did things, right? So we did a survey, we surveyed the church, we made these changes, and a spiritual war broke out in our church. It was ugly. I was a superintendent. I didn't expect all this to happen. It was just ugly. And guess who was at the core of the fight? It was the teachers. The same ones that tell everybody else to be pliable, be like Jesus, keep your eyes on the Lord, and love everybody, and pray for those who despitefully use you. The minute I said we're going to change something, they went to war. Thankfully, my pastor supported me. So when they said, listen, you got to stop this guy, my pastor had my back, right? That was Pastor Carlton Bird. He had my back. So be what you teach. I'm not saying we have to be perfect, but we should be striving to be Christ-like. Which means there are certain things I can no longer do. There are certain things I can no longer watch. There's certain places I can no longer go because God has given me this role, and I just can't be presumptuous and say I can live any kind of way and then stand up on Sabbath and teach. Okay, your role is to aid people in their spiritual growth, and we talked about that yesterday. And spiritual growth always includes the Bible. Now, here's where I lose some people at. On next Sabbath, this is what I want you to do. I'm just leaving it there for effect and just see how that works out. I want you on next Sabbath, especially if you are an adult class teacher. I understand our children, we have materials and things and crafts and everything. But if you are an adult class teacher, I am challenging you to teach your lesson using your Bible only. I'm not saying talk about any old thing. I'm talking about the lesson. Now, in order to do that, what must happen? I got to be ready. I have to be ready. I didn't bring my cheat sheet that I take in the church every Sabbath where I outline how I want the discussion to go. But I can't just come in the house on Friday after a busy week and start underlining things with a highlighter, and then on Sabbath I say those things with a lot of force and emphasis and call that teaching. That's not what I want to do. So that's how we're going to talk about how to teach. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? Yes and yes.
I just want to comment, when I teach it, I take 2 weeks to prepare.
Okay.
First week, I just sort of read through again, even though I'm doing it every week.
Yes.
The first week's prepare, then just figure all the scriptures and such.
You digest it all.
Digest it. Then I'll worry about organizing it and adding pertinent questions to get people to think.
Excellent. You and I do it the same. That's why I believe people should have an assistant, because that takes a lot of time.
It takes me at least 10 hours to prepare a lesson.
It takes a lot of time. Yes.
I've
Yes.
done that, taken all the verses out and just taken it into Sabbath school and tried just that.
Yeah.
But then the question was, and then I had to go back and rethink how I did it. Now I have to divide those into what days they are because they want to know what day are you on. You're doing just the Bible.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing. We're going to go through, we're going to put the microscope over top of the verse. Now, when you get to the third verse, what page are you on?
You know why they want to know what day you're on? Because they haven't studied the lesson.
Listen, this daily thing is tough. It is the hardest habit for our classes to shake. Some people feel like it is almost apostasy to not do the daily lesson study format when you're teaching. I'm telling you, I've seen people get upset that the teacher, here's what they'll say, before they know where I'm coming from, they'll say, listen, I want to talk to you because they know I'm there to do a workshop. I need you to talk to some of these teachers because they never make it to Friday's lesson. And can you give them some tips to make it to Friday? They don't know that I don't believe teaching that way. And I do what this gentleman does. And we're going to talk about theme teaching. I believe in order to prepare, you have to spend at least 1 hour for every 10 minutes of lesson study time, personally.
Sure.
I believe that, okay? And I think I'm going to put that here. All right. And here's why. I know some people never have visitors at their church, but small church. My belief is if I never have visitors, that should be on my prayer list. Okay. So, and we're going to talk about how to make some of that happen. So I'm going to give you the reasons why I believe we should teach from our Bible. I'm going to assume I'm going to have a visitor, even if I don't have a visitor. I'm going to assume that. And I want my class members to be familiar with their Bible. As I said yesterday, that I believe is true, that many of the people that sit in our Sabbath school classes never open their Bibles all week. I believe that. And I want to give them an opportunity to see how the Bible is practical and relevant. And we're going to walk through that together. We'll just dissect this together. Lesson study is a Bible-based group discussion. It's not a lecture. All right? It's not prayer meeting. It's not a sermon. It's a group discussion. So let's go ahead and do this. All right, let's work this together. Okay, are y'all getting nervous already when you saw me pointing? I saw the look of concern come over your face already. I have to give you a job to do. I have to. I'm sorry. I apologize up front. I apologize. And this one's going to be a little harder. No, it's going to be easier. Okay, so today, here's your job. And this one, we're going to do this one in 6 minutes. Took too long yesterday. I want to know the 10 characteristics of a great teacher, facilitator. Just 10 characteristics. But I also want to know the top 2 skills every good teacher must have. So here's how we're going to do it. I will make it simple. On this side of the room, here's your board. Pick a scribe. It should not be the burden of the person from yesterday. And the spokesperson should not be the burden of the person from yesterday. However, if no one else volunteers, I'm sure that you guys will carry the ball for everybody else. What questions do you have? I had another marker. I don't know where it is. I just sat it down. Okay, so I want to know how many characteristics what a good teacher should have. How many characteristics? 10. I want to know how many top skills. 2. And how long are we going to do this in?
We're going to do it in 5 minutes, and maybe 6 if we have to.
Maybe 6. I'm going to give this to you. Somebody may take it from you.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine. I'm going to give this to you. Somebody may take it from you. So let's go, people. We got to do this in 5 minutes. Here's your board. There's your sheet. And then,
Right under your feet.
Maybe I could get another question, get my book.
did you give your book away?
Somebody else is going to have to talk here. I'm not, if y'all notice, I'm not as talkable as usual, so.
Okay. Since you're here, you're going to start first. Looks like you can't wait to tell us your list. Tell us your name, the church you attend, and what you do at your church.
Okay, my name is Matt Falk. I attend Statesville, North Carolina Church, and I also attend Clarksville, Tennessee Church.
Really?
My children live with their mother in Tennessee, and that is my hometown and my home church.
Okay.
And I live here in Statesville, North Carolina, and so I'm kind of in between two churches. So, but I am in the 12 to 20. We have teen classes with anywhere from 12-year-olds to 20-year-olds.
Oh my!
And because of church size and volunteers, that's how the age group breaks up. Sometimes we might have an early teen teacher, sometimes we don't.
Let's bring this over closer so this side can see the wonderful work that's been done. Impressive work, I'm sure.
I just wrote it down. They came up with it.
All right, so tell me your 10 characteristics.
Okay, we came up with 10 characteristics in a brainstorming type fashion.
Okay.
We like teachers that can remember your name.
Oh, I love that.
Personal aspects of their class, and a teacher that's friendly, encouraging, they're punctual, they start class on time, they end class on time, they're understanding and engaging, creative, mix the class up a little bit so it's not the same all the time, relational, they are able to read well, and they're humble.
All right, so let me ask you a few questions. So what is this? Why did you guys put understanding on there? What's that about?
Understanding.
Who came up? Who added that to the sheet?
Does anybody want to claim to understand it?
Oh.
I think we're talking about being sympathetic, or they can understand it.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. All right. Creative. I love that. Being a good reader. When you say punctual, what does that mean? By when the class starts, they should be ready to go. They should get to Sabbath school by the time the class starts.
That's right. That's I think we taught. You don't want a teacher coming in 10 minutes late and everybody just talking and church.
Or the teacher's on time, but there's paper here and just trying to get it together.
Okay.
They need to be together.
So if Sabbath school starts at, let's just take an average, say 9:30. What time does your Sabbath school start?
9:45.
9:30, 9:45. And the lessons period starts like 15 minutes later than that, or let's just say. When should the teacher be there?
Whenever it starts.
They should be there when Sabbath school starts, right?
Yeah.
Not just when their class starts. That's really what I was driving at. I want to make sure. Okay. All right, great. All right. And your top 2 skills, what did you come up with?
Okay, the top 2 skills we felt like were very important was to be able to facilitate the class. In other words, keep it flowing, keep debates down, make sure it doesn't get away from you.
Okay.
And then to be very prepared.
All right. And by prepared, you mean?
By understanding the lesson, know the subject matter, to be able to take different questions that might come into the lesson study, and you've kind of thought ahead of time about those and how to facilitate those and what direction they need to go in.
That's good. Now, you guys didn't get the top skill, one of the top skills. I'm surprised you guys didn't get it. I'm shocked, really. And but I'm sure they have it. So they're gonna. I'm sure they have it. All right. Thank you. Did a great job. Who's the spokesperson for? Who's claiming it? Now they're pointing in all kind of directions. We're off to a bad start already. All right. Who's the spokesperson? Come up, please. No one's going to claim it but you. Come on up. Now, I noticed that you do like mind mapping kind of things.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm not a note taker.
No, I mean the way that
Cluster
you
taker.
organize your things. I really like that.
Oh, thanks.
That's really nice. You know, they write whole books on this kind of stuff. Have you read some of those books?
A little.
Okay, you're good. So, all right. So, what are your characteristics?
Okay, we have open-mindedness, humble, a role model, punctual, knowledgeable, personable, and non-argumentative or negative, which is kind of in a peacemaker category. I put together.
Mm-hmm.
Consistent, creative, and servant but leader at the same time.
Okay, so explain that servant leader. What does that mean?
Well, you can't be a good leader unless you know how to be humble enough to serve others.
Okay, all right.
And I guess that kind of rolls into humbleness.
All right. What do you guys think about that? You think that's a good characteristic to have?
That's Christ.
That's Christ? Okay. Okay. All right, let's see here. Consistent. What was that about? Tell me, what does that mean?
Consistent, meaning, I didn't say consistent.
Okay.
I'll blame for that. Consistent is your lifestyle and what you preach
Oh, I see.
are the same.
Okay.
Not because you can be a role model and still be a scumbag.
Yes. Okay, I got you. All right, now we're ready for the skills.
Okay.
They're going to bail y'all out, by the way. I know it. I haven't looked at it yet, but give it to us. What are your top two?
Just stick with our top two?
Yes.
Listener.
Well, this is your team, but one person said yes. So tell me your top two that you had.
Okay, so we thought the two most important was listener and teachable.
Okay, now, I thought people came to listen to me if I'm the teacher. Why do I need to be a good listener?
So that you know how to, what's going on in the room to be able to change directions.
Okay, well, I like that. And sometimes we have to listen to what's not being said, right? True. We scan the room, we look at the faces, and try our best to figure out, are we going too far ahead or are we lagging too far? All right, so good listener, all right? What was the other one?
Teachable.
What does that mean?
It means that you don't think you know everything.
Okay. All right, that's a hard one for Sabbath school teachers. We know everything. That's more of a characteristic. So give me another one. I'm looking for the winner. Give me another one of your skills you have.
What do we want to pick here?
I'll just take anyone. Just give me one.
I like leadership servant.
Okay, leadership servant. Okay. Tell me about peacemaker. What's that skill about?
Peacemaker is somebody who doesn't bring negativity into the room. They know how to guide negativity in another direction or be able to keep things in general in a peaceful manner. Okay, I like that. Okay, any questions for them so far? Because you guys didn't get it either. I just knew you were going to get it. And I had one more gift to give away. Thank you very much. You guys did a great job. All right. So all of us have room to grow, right? Like I'm not all of those things. But I should be honest with myself and say, I really kind of need to step up on this. I'm really not a good listener or whatever it is. So we should always be critiquing ourselves, not beating ourselves up, right? There's always room to grow. We'll never get to the point where we say, I have it all. But I was surprised you didn't give me the top skill. And I told you our best example as a teacher is who? It's Jesus. And the very first Sabbath school class he taught, we're going to learn a lot from it. What was the very first Sabbath school class that Jesus taught? He taught a Sabbath school class before then. Oh, he was 12 years old. And what happened? How did it lead up for him being in the temple?
Passover.
And his parents, on a journey, lost sight of the Messiah. That's, we read that so much we don't really let that register. They lost sight of the most precious gift ever given to man. And they weren't doing anything crazy. They were just fellowshipping with family and friends on a journey, and they turned and he was gone. But every time I think about this, I think about times in my life where I am just going through the motion, and I lost Jesus a long time ago. I don't even realize it. I'm just going through the motions. That's what I think about. However, let's get to here. When his mother found him in the temple, what was he doing? He was doing his father's business, but what was he doing? Yes.
He was asking questions.
Oh, there it is right there. And it came, here's Luke 2:46. And it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions. Do you think when Jesus asked questions, he did not know the answer? I believe he knew the answer. So why would he ask the question if he knew the answer?
Start a discussion.
Do you think he didn't know what they were thinking? He knew what they were thinking also. You can read about times in the Bible where he even spoke to what people were saying, right? So he would ask a question to do what? Yes.
Get the people to think through. In fact,
Yes.
when I teach physics in college level, student asks me a question. I will not answer the question. I will go and try to get them to think it out.
Yes.
themselves.
Okay. So here's the point where here's what we're going to talk about today. The top skill, if you want to be a good teacher, you must have the ability to ask great questions. If you can't master this, you're not going to have an interesting class. I'm just going to tell you. Because you can drone on and on all you want, but unless you can engage people, and if you study the life of Jesus all throughout his earthly ministry, he was always asking questions. He did two things. He asked questions and he told stories, not fibs. He told parables, right? Right. And as a teacher, can I use your book a second? I want to tell you. Whoever book it is. I just want to talk about questions because there's good questions, bad questions, right? And let's talk about some questions here. For a Sabbath school teacher, what would be a bad question to ask? Don't say there's no bad question.
Yes, no question.
Ask your yes/no questions. Feel free to ask that, but if I ask a yes or no question, what comes next?
Why?
I ask, why did you say yes or what? So don't be afraid of that. What is a bad question?
Why are you late?
That's definitely a bad question. Anybody else? A bad question. I'm a Sabbath school teacher, and for those of you who've been here for a while, I told you who my target is. Yes.
The question, some of the questions that they get most ridicule are the ones that got the answer right in the question, so that you don't even have to know it.
Oh yeah, they're just yes.
I think the worst question is when the teacher says, "Why did you ask that?" Because now you're making the person.
Oh, putting them on the spot. That's very uncomfortable. Yes.
Something they already know.
Something they already know. That's a bad question. Yes. If I want to involve people in my discussion, I have to avoid asking questions that only people who have studied the lesson can answer. Because if I ask those type of questions, all I'm going to get are crickets. That's all I'm going to get. So I have to find a way to ask a question different. So let's do this. Let me just give you some examples. I got a whole chapter on questions, and let's just run through it and see how this works. So I'm going to give you an example of surface questions first. The question is, who was Joseph? And the answer is one of Jacob's sons. Was Joseph put into jail? Why was he put into jail? He wouldn't sleep with Potiphar's wife. Did God deliver Joseph from jail? Yes. That is just boring. If I was in that class, I would just say, how can I get out of here? So let's ask it in a different way. Same subject. But let me just set this up. You do know that Joseph was by himself. Like there was no camp meeting. There was no teen class, collegiate class. There was no Sabbath school lesson. There was no scroll that he could just go. There was no temple, prayer buddy, nothing.
You didn't even have a Sabbath school.
He was by himself in a foreign land, not even his own home, in a foreign heathen land. So here's my question. Knowing all of that, Joseph, the son of Jacob, was put into jail for not sleeping with Potiphar's wife. How do you think Joseph was able to resist that temptation? Because many of us would give in for a lot easier. But seriously, I really want to know, how do you think he was able to resist that temptation?
He was raised.
From the way he was raised? Anybody else? How do you think? Yes.
More specifically, I think he cultivated the knowledge of the presence of God. He felt the presence. He felt like
I love that.
God's presence, that God was with him.
I love that. I love that. Anybody else? How do you think he was able to resist the temptation?
He knew the truth.
He knew the truth. He had a.
Well, he said yes, but he also knew the truth. Why would he admit he had nothing to gain by?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
He knew the outcome of what would happen to him in the long run of doing that too.
Oh, I like that. I hadn't thought of that. Yes.
But
Yeah.
He sensed the holiness of God, and the action that was presented was totally against
Yes.
that nature. And
Yeah.
relationship.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I think he loved God more than he loved himself.
And he implied that by how can I sin against God, right? Anybody else? So in less than 90 seconds, I had at least 6 of you guys raising your hand. All because of how I asked the question. And if we were really in Sabbath school, as we got to each one, we would have talked about a little more before I just moved on, right? But I was just showing an example. It's all about how you ask the question, right? So here's another one. And this is a yes or no question like you were talking about. Does God deliver all of his faithful followers from their personal symbolic prisons? That's a little deep. Does God deliver all his faithful followers from their own personal symbolic prisons? No. I heard no. Yeah, eventually. What do you think? Does he?
I think your key word was faithful, so I would say yes.
Faithful, yes.
No.
No.
I mean, John the Baptist was faithful. He was the greatest.
That's a good point.
prophet. He wasn't delivered. His head was cut off.
That's a good point.
Paul was faithful. He had a thorn in him.
Oh, Paul, he had a thorn in the flesh. That's a good point.
Drink a little wine for your stomach's sake.
Drink, yes, yes.
Did you use an imperative?
How?
Did you say always?
I did say that.
Yes, sir.
I didn't. I said, does God deliver all of his faithful followers from their personal?
Okay.
So I didn't say always. However, we just broke out in Sabbath school again.
Yep.
And if we had the 40 minutes allowed, we could have really had a good time with this. Because when he would have brought his up, I would have said, where's the story of John the Baptist found at? And somebody would have started turning to their Bible, and I would already know the typical answer I'm going to get. I would then say, class, let's turn to Matthew chapter 9, verse 6. And then the class, we would all turn to Matthew chapter 9, verse 6. I'm not saying turn to Tuesday's lesson. We're opening our Bibles, and when we get to Matthew chapter 9, verse 6, I'll say, can I get a volunteer to read Matthew 9, verse 6? Somebody sooner or later will raise their hand. And before I go on, I will then say, what does this text tell us about whatever it is? I'm not just going to say read it and start talking about something else. Because I told you Sabbath school is really just a Bible study. So now I want us to think. I've asked another question. So let's kind of illustrate that. Any questions about questions so far? I'll give you back your book, I guess. Y'all's book, okay. Your team book, okay. So let's walk through how to do this. Here's what we're going to work on today and tomorrow. How to start the class, how to transition to another point, right? Because when you want to turn to another point, you don't want to say, okay, we need to move on. I don't enjoy that. If my hand is up, I don't want you to say, well, I really need to move on. All right, so we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about how to land the lesson. I have to take them on a destination. I can't allow my class to be hijacked. All right? So just like this gentleman said, I'm going to read everything in the lesson, and I'm going to find what I believe the theme of the lesson is. What may be the theme of the lesson for me may not be the theme of the lesson for you. And this is all in the book. So let's do an example here. Here's a very familiar verse. John 14, 1-3. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. I like to know, there's no wrong answer. What is the theme of this text for you? Trust. That's definitely there. Yes.
God's providing.
God's provide. That's definitely there. I see that. What is the theme of that text? Yes.
God loves me enough that he wants me to be with him forever.
Oh, I love that.
The
That's
promise.
beautiful. A promise. Beautiful. Beautiful. If let's just pretend this summer, this is the entire lesson. All 7 days are in these texts. What we just did now is what I would do with everything I read in the lesson. I would digest it, and something would percolate to the top that would catch my fancy. And then I began my search. I'm going to say, you know what? I wonder, are there some other texts in the Bible that talks about God's love? Or whatever it was that you came up with. I might do a Google search. Personally, and I had tutorials. You can go on to my website. I have YouTube tutorials and all this stuff. But personally, I don't do a Sabbath school lesson without going on the whiteestate.org site. E.G. White's site. It's white, the word whiteestate.org. And they have you go down on the sidebar and there's something that says search. So I can go to there and I can type in, let's say the phrase, trust in God. And it will bring up everything that Ellen White has in her published works on trust in God. And I will use that to help me build my material. So we'll walk through this together. Any questions so far? All right?
Comment.
Yes.
You can get E.G. White, all of her manuscripts, letters, everything for free on an app on your phone
Yes.
or your iPad.
Yes.
And you can search, and it's got the Bible with it. You can search.
And I have it. I have it on mine. Yes. It's a little cumbersome on the phone, but on my, yes. And I saw you.
You're talking about Bible study. You could also go to Young's Concordance and get
Absolutely.
something like that.
Absolutely.
All under trust, and the different words that are original words that are used for trust and how they're translated in different places.
And there's other sites like excellent Bible Hub. They do a great breakdown. They'll do the Greek and the Hebrew and the different Bible Hub. Yes, and they'll even have the different commentaries by the most respected commentators. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So each week has a different theme.
Yes.
So, and on the last day, there's sort of a summary.
In the in the lesson quarterly?
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
And what do you think about starting with the summary?
Mm-hmm.
There's an old, I used to teach speech, and this is not a speech, but in speech it's like, tell them what you're going to tell them.
Yes, tell them.
And then
tell
tell
them
them what you told them.
Yes.
So you could tell them up front what the theme is, and and then you dig into the meat of it. And
Yes.
And then maybe at the end, ask the class for feedback on what are the main points.
Yes, and I do that. I'll tell you how I do that in a way. However, I need to find my own voice to teach. So I don't feel comfortable just trying to take the lesson author's Friday summary and leading my class. I believe that God will speak to me if I ask him. According to the book of James, he said, if any of you lack what? Ask of who? Ask me. So I put them to the test. But I always start my classes this way. I'll say, listen, welcome to Sabbath School. We're going to have a great time today. We're on such and such topic today. And I'm going to just give you a little insight to where we're going to land. This week, let's see, what did we talk about last week? I want to use the actual word we used. I can't remember the last lesson. What was the last lesson? The lesson before last.
Idols and lessons from Jesus.
Lessons from Jesus about idols.
About the kingdom.
Yes.
Who's the greatest?
Oh, yeah, that's what that's it. Yes. Who was the greatest? Yes. So I always say that because I want people to start raising their hand. That's my goal. My goal isn't to show people that I've studied a lot or that I'm deep. Yeah. My goal is to get people to participate. So I say, listen, we're going to have a great lesson to study this week. We're talking about such and such subject. But one of the things that we're going to end up spending a lot of time on today is compassion. I'm telling them up front. So my first question always to wherever I'm teaching, if you invite me to your church, you'll see I do the same thing. I would say, to make sure we're all on the same page, what does the word compassion mean to you? Every place I teach, I do the same thing. Let's say we're talking about being surrendering. I'll say to be on the same page, we're going to have a great lesson, but I want to make sure we're on the same page. What does the word surrender mean to you? How many people can answer that question? Everybody, because I didn't say what did the lesson say about surrender or compassion, nor did I say what does the Bible tell us about compassion. I just asked what it meant to you. Right. And then I'll get somebody's hand raised. They'll give me the right answer, but I'll say, does anybody else would like to share? Because I'm sending a signal that I want participation. I'm asking a question, a very easy question to get started. I know I'm taking them on a Bible journey, but I got to prime the pump. So that's what it does for me. All right? And I'll walk you through that. Every teacher should have an aha moment. If you are preparing to teach Sabbath school and you don't have an aha moment, which means nothing like saying, boy, I never thought of that before, or I don't remember reading that, or man, that's interesting, chances are if you don't have an aha moment, your class won't either. If all you are doing is repeating what you already knew, the people who already know it, it's just boring. There should be something sometimes to say, wow, I never thought of that before. So, an aha moment. Any questions so far? That's pretty cut and dry, right? At the end of my class, I have to land. What's the point? And it sure enough needs to be relevant. Don't just get up there talking about stuff and it has no relevance to my life. If we're talking about the sanctuary service and the 2,300 days, you're going to have to ask God, how do I make this relevant? How is it not just facts and information? What is the person who is changing the sheets at the hotel on Monday, what is she going to take away from this lesson that will encourage her and inspire her talking about the 2,300 days? And God will show us how to do that. All right, so we have to develop some questions. We already talked about that. Bad questions, good questions, best questions. Time is going. Some people are shy. Just our personalities. I am a very shy person. Stay to myself. I'm not the life of the party. But when it's time to teach, it's showtime. I have to have some energy. Because if I get up there, let me tell you what, I went to a church once, let me just tell you what happened. I have to show you what happens. I'm going to try to get into character. It's a little hard for me. I'm going to try. This is what happened. This is how they started. This was the superintendent, by the way. Start the Sabbath school. They found the superintendent at this church, apparently. Maybe this is why they don't acknowledge it. So this is how the superintendent started. They said, welcome to Sabbath school. It's been a really rough week, and the devil has beat me up this week. But so I'm sitting there depressed from just how they started Sabbath school. I want to say, listen, keep that to yourself. Don't get up and start talking about woe is me and life has been hard this week. They need your positive energy. Even if I've had a rough week, I'm not going to tell you about it. Now, you, my prayer partner, you might know, but when it's time to this showtime, let's go, I need some energy. Now, I have one of my teachers at my church. He is a good, kind, scholarly, thoughtful, prayerful man, but he's just a little too reserved. And I have to tell him like Captain Kirk used to tell Scotty in the engine room. I think it was Scotty who was in the engine room, right? They were always in a jam, and Captain Kirk would say, "Can you give it some more, Scotty?" Always. I don't know why. That was just the same menu every week. And that's what I have to tell this teacher. Listen, just give it a little more, you know? And we can do it because that's just I need somebody who doesn't mind embarrassing themselves. I need just 2 volunteers. I will embarrass you now. So I need 2 people volunteered, and if you don't mind being embarrassed. Okay, before we do that, let me just right here. Let me make it easier for you. I'll show you. This is not good. Everybody's like, don't look at me, but I can see you guys. You can't really hide in this room. So, just tell me, what are some strong emotions? Give me a few strong emotions. Anger. That's definitely a strong emotion. What is that? That's a version of anger. Let's say that. Fear. That's a strong emotion. I need another strong emotion. What was that? Guilt and embarrassment. Are there any positive, strong? All right, joy, love. What about excitement? That's a strong emotion. Okay, let me tell you the strong emotions I have so far. Anger, fear, guilt, embarrassment, joy, love, and excitement. Who are my 2 volunteers?
Military volunteer.
Well, all right, thank you. What's a military volunteer? You pick out somebody?
You volunteer somebody.
I'll make a fool of myself.
All right, thank you. Please come up. All right, so here's what I want you to do. Here's your task. Your task, and is it beauty before age?
Okay, that'd be
Now, how do you know? Now, who's the beauty? Which one's the beauty?
between the 2 of us. She's a lot prettier than I am. She's also younger than I am.
Okay, so she's the beauty and you're the age. Okay.
Right.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. You see this here? Turn around here. I want you to pick one of these emotions, and I want you to read it. Don't tell us what it is. We're just going to try to guess which one you've done. But now you have to really do it. Whichever one you pick, we want to be able to tell which one it is. So he's going to let you go first, and we'll just see if we can guess which one she's doing.
Okay, hold on. I have to do this.
You just read that in whatever emotion that you're picking.
Oh, okay.
Just read it, but don't tell us what it is. We'll see if we can guess it.
Good morning, and welcome to Sabbath School. We're happy you're here today, and this week our topics of discussion is love.
What do you think that is? Was that embarrassment?
It was.
Oh, good job. I was thinking maybe it was fear, a little bit of fear there.
There might have been a little bit, but it was mostly embarrassment.
Okay, great. All right. Your turn now.
Good morning, and welcome to Sabbath School. We're happy you're here today.
Wait. I made a mistake. Somehow you must have thought I said normal, and I don't want normal.
I was trying to imitate excitement.
I think it disappeared.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
I was trying to do excitement. I guess I blew it.
Yeah. Was that excitement?
Yeah.
You have to give us some more, Scotty. Now, come on now. Let's go, Scotty. Let's go.
Just embarrassed it.
Okay. You might have to pick another one. Let's go.
Good morning. I mean, first thing is excitement. The thing is, I admit the fact. I'll be open about it.
Yes.
You have to be truly excited, and right now I'm not truly excited.
That's okay. You volunteered, so let's go. But I saw your shoulders go up, so I knew something good was happening. Okay. All right, keep going. Let's go. Let's see if we can guess it.
Good morning to all. Welcome to Sabbath School. We are really happy to have you with us today.
Which one is it, y'all? Do y'all know yet? Please spare them. Which one? Is it Joy?
Yeah.
Oh, let's give them a hand. Thank you. Whew, that was close. Okay.
I figured if I was going to be embarrassed, I might as well pick embarrassment.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. My whole point is, listen, we can give it a little more. Don't just say, well, this is the way I am. They are feeding off of your energy. I'm telling you, it makes all the difference in the world. Even if everything doesn't go right, enjoy the process, right? So we talked about that. I told you start smart. I start with a definition question. I don't tell people what that is. There's some people that start with a craft or a visual aid or a statistic or a news article. Just find something to segue into the class. And of course, with teens and youth, you guys have a whole nother modality you have to use. But plan it out. Don't just wing it. Plan it out. All right? Guide your class with questions and not statements. So when I want to move the class on, I ask another question. I told you the top skill is the ability to ask great questions. So when I want to guide my class, I know what they're going to say. When I write down my list at home, okay, I'm going to start with this question, and I'm going to start with this question. They're probably going to give me this answer. But I got to get to this next point. What is the next question I should ask to get there? And we'll work through some of that tomorrow. Guide your class with question. This I must admit, will be in version 2 of the book. This is the most powerful thing that you're going to see all day for Sabbath school. If you follow this, it works. It's called do the 3-step. Here's how it works. It's self-explanatory. I ask a question just like I asked about Joseph. I get multiple answers, and then I have a volunteer read a Bible text. When they read the Bible text, I now ask a new question based on that Bible text. All I have to do this is about 4 times and Sabbath school is over. I didn't even have to do anything hard. So we read another text. We read John 3:16. I'll say, well, class, what does this verse, John 3:16, tell us about God's love? And somebody will raise their hand and say this. I'll say, oh, that's good. We'll explore that. And somebody might raise their hand about something else. All I've done, I've just asked another question. I've allowed them to give me some more answers. And I do the same thing. All right, that's good. Okay. Well, there's one more verse I think we should look at today. Can I get a volunteer to please read Matthew 25, verses 1 through 4? I'll just wait. Some of you guys only have one person in your class, maybe, so you can say, Jane, just read this for me, please. All right? But if you have more than one person, I suggest asking for volunteers. If you know your class well enough to say, Jane, will you read for me? That's fine. I don't have an issue with that. And I just do this 4 or 5 times, and I'll look up. Sabbath school is out. Everybody had a good time. We open our Bibles. We had a great time. If a visitor came in off the street, they can understand this. Because all we did was open our Bibles. So let's just stop there today. What questions do you have for me? Yes?
In the thing where you start, let's say you do the Bible text and you ask someone to read, is it appropriate to say we read around the class? Let's say there's more than one text.
Yes.
Is it appropriate to say we read around the class, and if you don't feel comfortable, just the next?
What do y'all think?
No, that's the way we do it in team class. You can't get nobody reading in team class. Not only that, you can't find people that the kids cannot read well anymore.
Yeah.
The class dynamic is different. I teach a sanctuary class.
Yes.
And there's a reason why people go to the sanctuary.
So they don't have to be...
they're engaged. You can see they're paying attention. And a bunch of them may read, but some won't.
So there is no yes or no answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
disagree because a lot of people are embarrassed to say no. They don't want to read.
Yes.
So now it's their turn, and they're like,
Right,
well, I
right.
don't want to read.
And
So they're already embarrassed.
Smaller
You put them on the
classes,
spot.
in
Yeah.
smaller classes, in the adults, it's different. But by they've cast their proxy vote that says I'm okay with a smaller group.
Yes.
So
Let me just say this. You should know your class.
I have new believers.
Okay, so if it was a new believer, I generally, my preference is not to, my preference is ask for volunteer.
yeah.
And see if that works. If that doesn't work, then you can try the plan B. But a lot of people, just like you said, they may not be able to read well, you don't know, and you don't want, listen, a visitor's number one fear is to be embarrassed. That's what I got to keep in mind. So the less that can happen, the better chance they'll enjoy the process. But there have been classes that I've led. I know everybody in my class, and it's okay to say, "Hey, Mark, do me a favor. I'll be here in a second. Mark, can you find this because I'll need this text in a second." Just know your class. Yes.
Oh, yeah. When I'm sitting in a class, I hate it when they read around it because it totally destroys the continuity of the pericope.
Oh, if it's like one passage and taking
Right,
turn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Around it just destroys it.
Yeah, and generally what I'll do, when I'll have to bring my notes, I already have at home, I need one person to read verses 25 through 28. I already know that, and I need another person to read 29 through 40, so I'll ask for different volunteers, yes.
In youth class, most of them, your classes like mine, they never look at the lesson.
Yes.
So reading through the passage of Scripture that is our subject gets them in the frame of mind to think about it and to be able to respond to the questions I'm going to ask them, which are some very open-ended questions.
Yes.
The other thing, I wish I could be here tomorrow. I wish I could be here yesterday, but I got to work.
Well, thank you for coming today.
The other thing is that my landing zone every single week is to help my students, my youth, answer the question, what does this teach me about the character of God? And how does this show that God really cares about
That's a good question. That's a good question to ask. I will say that our goal is to help people to see that the Bible is relevant, okay, and practical. However I can do that, let me just be creative in making that happen. And like we said earlier, that a teacher should be a good listener, I should be able to say, well, maybe this particular practice isn't working for my class. And don't be afraid to try something else. Yes.
Do you take each day of your Sabbath school and just pick like a good nugget that you thought was something that was just really good and then ask a question that pertains to that to get to it? Or
No, I don't.
like how do you pick your questions based on that day's lesson?
I don't follow that day's lesson.
Okay.
So I read, here's how my practice is. I'll read the entire quarterly, let's say Monday through Wednesday. I'm reading. I do mine online. I told you ssnet.org is what I use. So I click on every hyperlink for every Bible text, every E.G. White reference, and as I'm reading all of this, something starts to really catch my attention. And my habit is, and I even have a YouTube video, it explains it all in detail. My habit is now I'll start cutting and pasting. I'll say, oh, I like that text. I'll bring up a Word document and I'll just sit it right there because I know this is interesting for me. Or I'll do some research on Ellen White's website and I'll find something related to it and I'll cut and copy that and sit it on that Word document. And as I'm going through the week, something starts to gel. That's how I do it. I don't follow that I must talk about something on Sunday's lesson, or I must talk about something on Monday. I don't want to be held captive to that. Yes.
Just an idea.
Yes.
You can disagree with them. Sometimes, well, most of the time, I'll take 2 or 3 points out of the lesson and go for that. No more than 3.
Yes.
This is the point. This is the point. What is the lesson? What is the lesson saying? What is the whole summary of the lesson? And take 3 points or 2.
Yes. You shouldn't really try to cover more than 2 or 3 points, regardless of how you get there. Don't. But here's one of the things that's powerful about doing it based on the Bible. because it helps it be less threatening, especially for young people. If I'm saying now, what does this text tell us about whatever the relationship it was God, versus this is what y'all should be doing or this is what y'all shouldn't be doing. All I'm asking you now is, what do you see in this Bible text about whatever the subject is? And allow God to speak to not only the youth, but even to the adults in our class. My job isn't to be the person to drive that conviction home. I just want to show the love of God. That's really what I'm trying to do. Yes.
Are we trying to give them the great pearl of all wisdom, or are we trying to teach them how to find that pearl, whatever the subject is?
That's a good question. I don't even know how to answer it. That's a good question.
The 3 points, did you think that was not good? Or?
No, I think that's good. I'm just saying I wouldn't try to cover more than 3 points. No. But I don't take my 3 points from this is what the author of the lesson said, so these are the 3. God gives me 3 points, right, and it's work. But I'm just saying that if you try to cover 7 topics, you're just muddying the water. So really, I focus generally on one core topic. I get there by various ways. I always tell a Bible story. Whenever I'm teaching, I talk about, Jesus did this, and I said, can you imagine how it was to be walking? I'm telling a Bible story, but it's taken me to the same point. I saw your hand, yes.
More than one person, when I tried to use that technique, come up to me and say, you know what, I studied my lesson this week, we buy the quarterlies, and I was just waiting for you to get to Thursday, but you never even talked about that subject. So
yeah.
And then as a teacher, I started to feel bad.
Let me give you an answer, if that's okay. If you study, when people say that, listen, the purpose of you studying those things was for your personal edification.
But they got a question.
Well, that's fine. And say, listen, do you have any questions? Listen, before we get started, does anyone have any questions from what they studied this week? You can do that easily. But some people feel like and this is maybe taking to an extreme, some people are upset that we didn't talk about what I already know about.
Yes, sir.
Maybe that was it.
That's what happens. They know everything about Thursday's lesson, but they like that part. And they're upset, not that they have any questions about Thursday, they just like that part. And they get upset that you didn't talk about the part they like so much. So to disarm them, if you're going to try a different way, is to say up front, listen, do you have any questions? Because some people do have legitimate questions, maybe, and then you could talk about that and then segue into what you want to do.
We're just blessed in one of our class that we have a non-Adventist spouse of one of our members, and he asks the best questions, and they're just off the street. They're not Adventist questions.
Yeah.
They're wonderful.
Yeah. And we're going to do tomorrow, we're going to talk about some Adventist cliches. We're going to talk about Adventist talk tomorrow. Listen, if there's no other questions, we're a little bit over time. If there's no other questions, consider yourself dismissed. Thank you all for coming out, and I hope to see some of you tomorrow.